Hey, this is Alex. I want to take a minute and talk about a game that I really enjoy, which is called Malifaux. Anyone that's really been around me much lately has known that I've pretty much become infatuated with the game. It's a tabletop miniature skirmish game. And basically, for those of you who don't know, a miniature game is basically almost the same thing as a board game, but instead of a board, you have a table that you put terrain on top of. And usually this is made yourself, and you make buildings and hills and trees and various other things, and you play with these miniatures that the companies, in this case Weird Miniatures, have made for us. And you put together the miniatures yourself, and you paint them yourself. And then you play against another person who has their own collection of these miniatures, for various story elements. With Malifaux actually has one of the best um, scenario-based storylines with any miniature war game, because it's usually just, well, I put my army on the table, you put your army on the table, and we just try and kill everyone. But luckily with Malifaux, that's not the case. And many times you'll have a game where you can kill everyone, and actually because you killed everyone and you didn't worry about any objectives, you'll lose very quickly. Um, they, the game is actually built up on a victory point basis, and for the most part, some of it's random, but some of it you actually get to choose a lot of. Basically, a little bit on the story. There is an alternate universe to ours, which has a single city in it that has been discovered so far, and that city is called Malifaux. And in this world, magic is predominant, and it mixes very well with like science and the human mind as well. And basically, everyone on this planet, on this universe, at one point was killed. Well, almost everyone. There are a few leftover creatures and humanoid people. But basically, almost everyone was wiped out because they grew so powerful that they kind of unleashed a portal to death. Well, how this interacts with our world is that there is a secret society of wizards who decide that magic has been waning thin for far too long. And what they decide to do is open up a portal to the place that they get magic from, which is this Malifaux. Um, they start finding in Malifaux, they start finding these gem-like crystals called soul stones, and basically these amplify your power. But the only way to really recharge them is to have them be near someone who is dying, and hence why they're called soul stones. Um, the effects of this going into our world is felt immediately by an organization called the Guild, which act like a East Indian trading company. They're a very, very, very corrupt society who are trying to control all of the soulstone manufacturing and who gets what, because it's almost illegal to have it, unless you are sanctioned by the guild to have it. And so most people were not okay with this. Um, but the thing is that Malifaux is a very dangerous world. The planet is actually inhabited by a wide variety of almost Earth-like creatures called the Neverborn. And basically, these are the remains of the natural inhabitants of Malifaux. Most of them are just creatures. Like there's a three-headed saber-toothed cat, and there are these fish-like deep ones who live in the swamp. And there's actually an entire race of, they're called gremlins, they're little goblin hillbillies, funny enough. There's giant pigs, there's giant rats that live in the sewers beneath the city. Um, there are the remains of undead armies, like inside the city itself in certain areas that are quarantined off. Basically, if it's not the downtown area or the slums, you're not allowed to go in, and it's like walled because of how dangerous it is. So basically, the guild have taken over the major city of Malifaux and some of the outlining area. And most of the people do not like how tyrannical its rule is. So they've actually started doing a lot of rebelling against it. And the most open or public one is the Miners and Steamfitters Union, which has actually gotten a lot of support behind it because they are pretty much almost like a communist party mixed with the mob. The Arcanists, which are people who practice magic that the guild has not sanctioned yet, they have decided to unite with each other and try and take over the soulstone manufacturing and distribution of it. And they right now are doing it only through illegal means. Smuggling it is the most common practice, and smuggling in people who can help them. This has sometimes actually led to them being having some very bad situations. Like, for instance, one of the masters for guild, who are basically who you take the role as, is C. Hoffman. And because they tried to get his brother to come into Malifaux, and his brother wanted to take Hoffman with them, his brother ended up having his head explode, but he wasn't killed from it. And Ramos had to use his technology to put together a contraption to keep his brother alive, and basically ended up with Hoffman having a lot of hostility towards Ramos when Ramos really wanted Hoffman and his brother's help. So you have situations like that arise with this organization, and they're very cutthroat, but they have a good reason to be. Outside of them, there are other practices of magic that even the Arcanists will not ally with, and that is the necromancy, specifically the Resurrectionist faction. They are groups of individuals who basically, through one way or another, are either insane or so power crazy that no one trusts them. They live in various research fortresses, kind of like Dr. Frankenstein has always been depicted as. He has a castle that he's taken to have research material in to raise his monster. That's basically the mentality that a lot of the Resurrectionists are put with. And basically everyone has a shoot-to-kill order on most of them. They, through one way or another, they either want to overthrow the guild, or they either want to overthrow the guild, bring death to everyone in Malifaux, and probably Earth as well, or want to build things that are so unique and drastic to themselves that no one else has ever done it or ever will do it. And they are kind of in competition a little bit with themselves over that. Beyond them, as I said, there are all these Neverborn, which actually have humanoid beings with them as well. And those are the remains of the old race that lived here. They want Malifaux back with them. They don't like these humans who have entered into what they consider their world. And through various means, they're trying to either kill or drive back all of the humans and undo everything that they've done. And they've actually been fairly successful for it. But the guild is ever expanding, and the Arcanists are ever expanding, and the Resurrectionists themselves are constantly expanding in various ways. So they can't keep it up anymore. They're being pushed back, and they're trying desperately to stop humanity from fucking up their world, pretty much. They are usually they're usually formed out of some sort of human memory. For instance, there is Lilith, who's one of the masters for them, and her Nephilim, which are all based off of um, beings that are like the devil, but like the more traditional mentality of the devil, hooked feet, horns, wings, um, but perverse, where they have giant claws and try and pretty much rip someone's throat out. Um, Past that, those are the four major factions. There's also a faction of outcasts, which are basically people that don't really fall into any of the other factions. The Gremlins are in this faction. The mercenaries are in this faction for the most part, and a being known as Hamlin is in this, who is a Neverborn who all the other Neverborns want dead. Um, but that's the basis of the storyline.